I love the story because it's a little bit bizarre.
A little bit ADD. So Lame Trails, that's a great name for a trail set.
Now I want to go do jumps, but it's too wet.
They're called multi-arm bandits, but I hate that name. Oh, that jump, that's the deer hip. I have double tire cased it before. What do I want to do? I want to go jump Blue Steel.
At this point, one of our local jump lines, Blue Steel, is fairly well known in the larger scope of the mountain bike landscape. The jump line sits prominently on a recently logged slope looking to the north with beautiful views up to British Columbia. The jumps were built by the globally renowned Swiss jump builder Nico Vink, and the whole thing was made possible thanks to our friends at Transition Bikes, a local bike company. The jumps themselves are not particularly technical, and while they definitely aren't the biggest jumps ever, the size is indeed substantial. There have been some gnarly injuries on these jumps over the years, and the pre-flight checklist definitely needs to be taken seriously. I've heard rumors of a fellow who only rides Blue Steel, and with the use of his e-bike, does absolutely tons of laps on it all year long. This sort of lore is usually tied somewhat into truth, and when I finally met Brent, I quickly learned the real story is even crazier and more fun than the rumors. Since meeting Brent, I've had the absolute pleasure to not only ride with him a couple of times, but to recently spend a Friendsgiving with him and his wife. So everyone, meet Brent Stevens.
Hey, thanks for the introduction. It's all completely true. I think we'll dive into it. But, Blue Steel is really what got me into my mountain biking, and it's, my obsession.
Before we get into Brent's story, let's back up slightly. First up, this is a podcast. Yes, you can totally watch it, and it's nicely edited, but we are expecting folks to primarily listen. Second, Brent rides Blue Steel a lot, but he's also careful about when. If it's too muddy, or if there are freeze-thaw events, he knows when to say no. These jumps are built very well, and one person's use is not going to degrade them. If anything, these jumps see a lack of use, and someone riding them consistently only helps to keep them in smoother, better shape. Too often, we see jumps like these overgrown with weeds. Brent takes care to clean the jumps up, and if he does start to leave marks, he grabs a shovel and tunes them back up. Remember, he wants to come back tomorrow and ride them again. Personally, I feel the jump line benefits quite a bit from his consistent riding.
I love the story because it's a little bit bizarre, and you're such an interesting person that I think it's going to be a fun video. So let's dive right into it. How many runs have you done on Blue Steel in 2024?
Yeah, so I set a goal to do 366. I got that by May. That would be 1 lap per day of the year.
Okay.
But so right now, we just did 9 laps today, which puts us up to 844 so far. I will get it. The goal is to get up to 850 by the end of the session.
Holy cow. We can make that happen, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Before we get into the Blue Steel details, let's back up a little bit more. What's your mountain biking and dirt jumping or BMX experience?
Yeah, so I really come from a BMX dirt jumping background. When I started grad school in 2009, I had a friend that was sort of an old school BMXer in the Texas scene, sort of introduced me to some of the local spots called the Ant Hills. I rode a lot at 9th Street. And really ever since then, I've just been obsessed with BMX. I was going out to Walnut Creek pump track multiple days a week, but really, for me, it's all about dirt jumping. And, really it was about trying to find like the next biggest trail to go jump at. In the Texas scene, they've got, massive trails like East Side, which I've never even been to. So there's always another sort of step up. And I didn't start mountain biking until I moved back to the Pacific Northwest in 2000.
Because you grew up in Portland.
I grew up in Portland. My wife and I, during COVID, decided we hated living in Chicago. And so we moved back to the Battleground area. And it was pretty disappointing for me at first, because I was used to there being, a huge trail scene that I could sort of plug into.
Yeah.
But like the Portland area, it had a lot of its prominent jumps, like the Grotto plowed, the Lumberyard was closing down. There really wasn't much in the way of sort of like BMX dirt jump in the Portland area.
Did you ever ride the So Lame Trails in Salem?
No, So Lame Trails. That's a great name for a trail set.
I've never ridden them, but what I've seen over the years in media, they look like similar to the Shire, just perfect.
Oh, wow. Well, now you make me want to go down to Salem and try those out.
Road trip or airplane trip. We'll get to that stuff later.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good Salem airport. Yeah, but so, for me, mountain biking was really, I kind of looked around on YouTube and I saw that the way to jump a bicycle in the area was to get on a mountain bike and ride the mountain bike jumps. Yeah, and I think that really, transitions into, why Blue Steel? And And so it was right about September 2020 when I had taken my first rental lap on a day at Mount Bachelor, riding a mountain bike, and I was sort of trying to scope out, where the local jumps and stuff were. And my friend from Minnesota, he runs this place called Cottage Grove Bike Park, Trevor Crawford. He has friends at Transition. I was following him on Instagram. He flew to Washington and posted a clip of him jumping through Blue Steel. And that was the first month it had been built. And I saw that clip and I'm like, well, he's a BMXer. I've ridden his jumps on BMX. If he's able to get on a mountain bike and, jump these jumps, I bet you I can do it.
That's the right attitude. I like it.
The reason I bought a mountain bike was watching my friend Trevor post an Instagram clip of jumping through Blue Steel.
Yes. That's awesome. And do you know when these jumps were built?
Yeah, September 2020.
September of 2020.
Was the grand opening.
Okay. Because they were sitting here built for quite a while before were they built in 19 or 20?
Oh, I don't know about that. That's a good question.
You weren't in town yet.
Yeah, I didn't move into town until July 2022.
Okay.
Which I guess, trying to keep things organized. But the other, fun part of that story is it took me almost 2 years of owning a mountain bike before I built up the confidence in my skills to come try it. And before that included buying a house as close as I could to Blue Steel before I ever came up here and rode them.
That's awesome. So backing up slightly, Transition came out here and built these jumps. You saw it, so you decided to buy a mountain bike, and then you realized you had to buy a house close by. So just because they built one jump line, we have someone buying their fancy e-bike and moving. So I think the city of Bellingham needs to pony up and pay back Transition for all their jump building.
Yeah, it needs to get put on the tourist department for sure.
That's awesome. Everyone, hit the subscribe button down below and then subscribe to Dr. Beardsley.
Oh, yeah. Nothing but Blue Steel content.
You were riding mountain bikes back in the southern Washington area and in Bend. Were you more stoked on technical trails or on jumps back then?
Oh, absolutely just about jumps. I really, identify a lot as a BMXer in that sort of fundamentally what that acronym used to mean, and that, it's bicycle motocross.
Yeah.
So for me, it's, I'm obsessed with motocross bikes. I've never ridden one because I'm worried I'm going to hurt myself.
Probably.
But I basically just wanted, big, fast bike, I think another thing is coming from the BMX trail scene, I'm really starting to learn and respect the safe mountain bike jumps that aren't as steep, have big case pads, way more forgiving. This compared to the Shire, is way easier than riding our local technical dirt jumps in town.
For our friends that aren't familiar with Bellingham, Shire is a privately owned dirt jump spot, very BMX centric, BMX built, steep and deep, very proper. I haven't been able to ride there in years, but I miss it. Hello to Ian if you're watching this. What's up, buddy? I need to come over and make a pizza.
Yeah, thanks for the pizza oven, Ian. Big shout out.
You mentioned the first time I met you, exploration versus exploitation. How does that come into your enjoyment of Blue Steel?
Yeah, so this is really, coming back to some life philosophy shaped by my background in computer science. I'm a professor. But so there's this class of algorithms in game theory that they're called multi-arm bandits, but I hate that name. They're really better thought of as lever pulling algorithms. So you imagine you're sitting in front of a slot machine and each lever has some sort of probability of payoff and you don't know which lever to pull. And so really these algorithms are about sort of balancing this idea of pulling a new lever to figure out what happens, or do you keep on pulling the old lever that you know is going to give you a big payout? And I really tend to sit on the side of exploitation here. And so, especially with learning new dirt jumps, there's things like learning a new line is always going to be more dangerous than coming back to the line that you already know and you're dialing in. And so for me, it's really about this. I consistently know that I can put on my pads, get on my bike. Like yesterday, I left door to door in less than an hour, getting up here, doing 7 laps, getting back home.
Nice.
And so that consistent, exploitation of I know it's going to be a good time, they consistently run pretty much. My rule of thumb is that if my driveway is dry, Blue Steel is going to run. So I kind of look out my window and judge what the weather is going to be based on, and it's almost always a good time getting up here.
Nice.
So I definitely, err on the side of exploitation. The other side of that is I am a hilariously underexplored mountain biker in the Bellingham area. I've ridden Lookout once, Alger twice, Sudden Valley like 3 times. Like I haven't ever ridden the Chuckanuts. I haven't ridden Blanchard. I haven't ridden Anderson, any of these other, spots in the area. And it's just because I know I'm not going to have as much fun as pedaling up here and jumping Blue Steel.
Because your interest isn't so much in pedaling and covering 30 miles in a day.
Yeah. I mean, so I am almost more inclined to do that on my gravel bike. And that's because I get to hang out with my best friend, my wife, if I'm doing that. She is able to keep up on like some of the Blue Flow type stuffs, a lot of the Galbraith stuff. She can follow me to Blue Steel. We can take a trail back down and get home. But some of the more technical stuff in the area, she's not really at that skill level. And she's more interested in flying airplanes these days. So if we're getting out for sort of the long, grind, we're just going to be getting on our, road or gravel bikes.
Let's back up slightly. What was your first run through Blue Steel?
Oh, yeah. We'll have to, this will be, an edit in maybe. I've got footage of it. It was after 2 years of working up on my road to Blue Steel. Yeah. Cedar Dust and Dirt Merchant were probably really big for building up that confidence. But it was September 2022. I came up here, the old Blue Steel. And
the old Blue Steel.
Before the rebuild. And it was 3 test laps coming up to the first shark fin here, pulling my brakes. And I went for it, and I cased the shit out of the first shark fin. Went OTB to my hip.
Oh, no.
And it's some great footage. My wife hollers at me and goes, "Are you okay?" And I yell back, "Well, yes and no." No, lasting injuries. I wear these hip pads.
Yeah, me too.
And they saved me because, I had a big sort of, bruise on the hip. But that was it. I think no, that wasn't it. I came back. I got that shark fin again. Then I called it. Really my first attempts through here, it took me from September 2022 was the first time I made it through the first shark fin.
Okay.
I think it was May 23 by the time I cleared the full line for the first time.
Okay.
And so, this really comes back to my getting into BMX sort of late in life.
Yeah.
The way, I was learning to do BMX, it was always one jump at a time. Like if it's not perfect, you stop, you go back up to the top, you do the line again. So really I was trying to, slowly, methodically, work through and learn the line.
How much was following someone through versus just solo sending?
Oh, I never followed anyone through.
Holy cow.
My first session, there wasn't anybody else up here, nobody even. The thing that I realized I did wrong is I didn't quite have as much speed coming in as I would have liked. That's why I cased it.
Would you rather case or overclear these jumps?
On
your first time through?
On my first time through, I think it depends on which jump.
Yeah.
I'd rather case the deer hip. I'd rather over jump the step up, the jump after the deer hip there.
Yeah.
Which I should probably pause and name the jump. I'm the only person that insists on calling that jump the deer hip.
The deer hip.
It was Nico Vink called it that as a joke in his intro video because he's standing right here and there's a deer standing on the landing and he makes a joke. He just points and says, "Oh, that jump, that's the deer hip." And so I refuse to call it anything else.
So they didn't do. It's leading into another shark fin. Like first there's a left shark fin, then there's a right shark fin, then there's a deer hip. It
definitely confuses people when I'm at the top talking, "Oh yeah, hit the deer hip." They're like, which jumps the deer hip.
And it's a pretty subtle hit. But then we have the next one's the step up, right?
Yeah.
And then the long and low.
Yep.
And what do you call the last one?
I call it the trick jump or the offset.
What about the last
one?
one?
I'm open to having come up with a better name for that one, though.
I figured last one was pretty descriptive.
Last one is also what I call it, yeah.
If you're enjoying this video, I've done over 50 riding tutorials over the years, but you won't find them posted here on YouTube. Instead, they're only posted over on my Patreon page. Yes, my Patreon page is more than just a digital tip jar. There's a wide variety of topics posted up between body positioning, how to effectively use the brakes, how to do a wheelie, how to boost a jump, how to do a low speed drop. There's tons of tutorials up there, and it's not just me. I've also posted a whole bunch of coaching tutorials, coaching other riders through some of these techniques. Scroll down to the YouTube description below and I've got a bunch of those Patreon videos linked to you down there, and pop on over. We're currently doing a free trial promo so you can get a look and see if it's something you want to check out. Thank you all so much for your support. It means a lot to me that we can be here talking bikes and having so much fun. All right, let's get back into the video. Do you know the max rider speed through the jump line?
I don't, but I'd be blown away if it's less than 30.
Yeah, it's definitely quick. So when you take a crank on your e-bike, you're past the power cutoff, right?
So that's kind of funny because I think if I get a crank at the top of the deer hip,
yeah,
I'm still not past the cutoff.
That's
but
crazy.
I'm not sure.
When I was standing right here a minute ago and you came flying through, it was like, holy cow, it is way faster and you're going way higher than it feels like when we're going through just regular. So like the difference between the experience of riding it versus standing there and looking at it seems quite different. They're not very steep jumps.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect them to put us that high in the air, but we do end up quite a bit up there.
Yeah, so I think they're really in a sweet spot for steepness.
Yeah.
Like another big local trail spot that I like is Port Gamble. It has the Maverick jump line. But it honestly, like I went there for a jam. I did over 40 laps on that, in one day at the jam. They were boring me by the end because they're so wedgy.
Oh, yeah?
To kind of just hang on. This is a real sweet spot of it's got enough lip to kind of, keep it poppy. But like the Cedar Dust Pro line, I'm still just now going through one jump at a time because they are so straight up vertical, on those lips.
They're more technical, definitely.
Yeah.
I've only hit the bottom 3. I haven't even done the whole thing yet because it's over the summer. I quit riding jumps. I was just Mr. Cross Country as usual. And then now I want to go do jumps, but it's too wet. So.
Yeah, and we're really now starting to touch on even, what led to this Blue Steel project.
Sure.
And one of the big things that led to this Blue Steel project that I'm working on, which was 1 lap per day of the year. I'm up to 2.3, I went and calculated. Also 20 miles of air time, which is because my friends came, we measured the jump. I'm just multiplying the distances of the jumps by.
What are the distances?
Yeah, I mean, so let's, take a little bit ADD.
That's okay.
But so this first one is, I believe, 35.
What?
On
this guy.
As they measured it, yeah. Let me pull it up to make sure I am actually just repeating exactly what they did.
Riley and I, when we got here this morning, we were chatting and we were like, what is this, 15, 20 feet long?
Yeah, so
I'd rather under than over.
yeah, so I don't have a measure on this first shark fin, but walking through the rest of the line, second shark fin,
Yeah.
35 feet.
Wow.
Deer hip, slightly shorter to the sweet spot, 33 feet they measured.
Okay.
28 feet on the step up,
Huh.
31 on the long and low. And then the last jump, you can even see it's a little bit too small. It's 27.5.
Okay.
It really should probably be 29.
Yeah, I kind of like the way it is right now because if you need to transfer left, right, it's forgiving.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the way it is now, too, because it runs great when it's wet.
Yes.
Even though there's a mud puddle right in front of it, that mud puddle's not slowing us down too much.
So I had written down to ask you about conditions and how it changes between spring, summer, fall. And today it's kind of almost a freeze thaw where the takeoffs luckily are nicely hard packed, the berms are hard packed, but the flat bottoms are fairly soupy. So how does the conditions change over the year and how does it affect the feel?
I mean, so I would say right now it's not the best conditions, but even just 2 or 3 days ago, for me, was all-time conditions favorite to ride Blue Steel. So, it really gets me talking about how so through a combination of, I think, genius on Nico Vink's part and really just luck about this location, there are so many things that make this a great year-round spot. So I think the first one is it runs too fast in the summer.
Too fast in summer.
And so, like, in the middle of the summer, I am taking 0 cranks in, just coasting in.
Yeah.
I'm braking before the second shark fin, and then I'm braking again before the deer hip, and I'll still over jump it. And then it's, no cranks the rest of the line. I prefer to not have to brake, and so the winter taking 1 to 2 cranks at the top and being able to coast through the rest of the line runs about better. But so another big thing about the conditions is the orientation of these jumps. So these jumps pretty much run due south to north.
Okay.
What's really interesting about that is, in addition to the sun not being in your eyes ever, is the predominant wind direction in Bellingham is south. And so that means that even when it's windy, you're getting a tailwind.
Sweet.
And I'd much rather be jumping with a tailwind than any other kind of wind. And so, the best conditions are, obviously no wind. But just this week, it was 8 knots gusting 16 knots at the airport, which is a pretty big gust coming through. And I only felt it once over the shark fin. It just, once you dropped in. The other thing is, we're on a downhill.
Yeah.
And so we're on the leeward side of Galbraith. And so what that means is, the airport out in the flats is going to get a higher wind than we're getting out
We've got
here.
some wind coverage from that hill.
Yeah, exactly. And so really with that dominant wind, with the sun not in your eyes, in the winter, we got the sun on the lips here so that it melts everything, keeps the, the most important part, nice and dry. I think it's just the perfect, year-round trail set.
Cool. And then you mentioned you wear a pelvis protector.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wearing my pelvis protector as always, but then you're also big into pads as well.
Yeah, so when I started BMXing, I was not very good and crashed a lot. I started when I was 21, which is, a lot later than, a lot of my friends and peers. And I kind of just went through this, rule of thumb when I was learning to BMX that anytime I hurt something, I'd go and look for a pad that I could put on that part of my body to make it so I didn't hurt it again. And so, I'm not wearing them now, but, for dirt jumping, I'll put on ankle braces. Not sponsored, but, been a fan of POC for over 10 years. They're just my go-to pads. I've got POC knee pads on, the POC hip pads. I've got a pair of POC body armor up there. And that POC body armor has saved me, I think, from breaking my elbow. It saves me from breaking my back. I think I would have torn my shoulder a lot more. And so it kind of sucks in the summer. You get too hot, but, it's kind of just the price I pay. I'm really, as a computer science, I'm into what you call tail performance. And so if you look at your distribution, the tail is, the improbable things. But if I only have a 99% or, even a 99% success rate at jumping blue steel, that means I would have crashed 8 times by now doing 845 laps.
Right.
And, not too far off. I've crashed 5 times so far. I guess this year only twice. But so, getting up to, 99.5% probability. And it's still not enough, to not wear pads and helmets. And so...
So, and then you mentioned something about your GoPro. Why is it you're filming every single run?
Yeah. So, I think the big reason that I'm filming every single run is because something unexpected is going to happen and I don't know which lap it's going to happen on. And I want to know what's going to happen. I want all of the footage for, the rare thing. So the big thing is I want to be able to, see what happens and goes wrongs in my crashes, being able to, study and think about them. But, the other thing is I almost ran into a deer the other day. I guess it was, probably about 6 months ago. But, I drop in and there's a deer right on the lip of the step up. It goes back and it goes back and forth, cuts right in front of me. And, we'll have to, we'll cut that footage in too.
What did you do? Did you pull off or did you just assume he would get out of the way proper and send it?
I believe I stopped.
Yeah, that's what I did on Cedar Dust when I had a deer come out.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah, because you
It's-
can't predict if they're going to run with you and then not be going fast enough or what. So it's
Yeah, and I mean, there's kind of this split-second decision of like not pulling your brake can be safer than pulling your brake halfway and still going off the lip and landing in the middle. And yeah, it's definitely, at some point it's like a gut reaction. You can't even really think about it, but.
a couple other fun questions. What is the scariest thing you've seen through Blue Steel, and what has been the coolest thing you've seen through Blue Steel that other people have done or that it's happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, so for anyone wanting to learn Blue Steel, the scariest thing I've seen, multiple people do, and it's people coming out here when it's running fast in the summer for the first time, and what they'll do is they're scared of hitting the deer hip because it's a big jump, and you can make it, 3-4 feet shorter if you cut the inside left corner of that. And I have seen multiple different people come in, plenty of speed. They cut that inside corner, and they're coming nosed into flat. And fortunately, I haven't seen my person, those people crash. They always kind of, hit their nose, recover. But, I've heard stories. There was a guy on Instagram who severed his wrist.
Yeah.
Alicia was, honestly, big shout out to Alicia. Every single lap, or every session at least before I drop in, I say to myself, these are big jumps. You could really hurt yourself, be careful. And so, I think the big thing that scares me, the big thing I'd advise people not to do, don't cut the inside corner of that hip on your first lap. It's got a big case pad. You're better off jumping center.
And if you do case it, you're going 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like there's a chance if you go to pedal on an e-bike, you're going to still have some e-assist even.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you're casing at 20, that's not ideal, but it's such a step up that's safer than over-clearing it to flat and falling 20 feet down plus going even faster.
Yeah, and the deer hip in particular, it's got a full bike length case pad.
Yeah.
I have double tire cased it before, and it's kind of a mellow landing. It's not that steep, so it's like you can really take a big compression on it and still roll away. I think the coolest thing, it was my favorite memory. I messed up the GoPro footage, but it's burned in my brain. It was at the Fanatic session tune-up, July 2024. Big session out here. It was a big tailwind at 12 knots, so everyone is over jumping everything. But we had a train running through. The person leading the train was maybe the best 8-year-old in the world. Wes is his name.
Cool.
Trio on Bikes is their Instagram.
Cool.
So he was leading a train. I think he did a backflip. Remy Morton, one of my all-time favorite riders, was second in line. And then it was me behind them, following him in a train on Blue Steel. And so that combination of like the young pro, like, one of my all-time favorite riders, and, we're just hanging out together, sessioning together. That's probably my favorite lap I ever took.
Awesome. Way cool. So, bike talk.
Yeah.
You bought this bike specifically for Blue Steel, right?
Absolutely. I mean, so I, was jumping Blue Steel, but, not more than, 4 laps a session kind of thing. And, the big thing, I bought the house because I wanted to be as close to Blue Steel as I could be. And it is as close to Blue Steel. It was not close enough for me because it was still, a 40, plus minute pedal to get up here. Then I was too tired. I could only do a few laps. And so I was optimizing, looking for, I wanted a bike that was going to have the e-bike power to get me up here, but I wanted it to be, super nimble and playful still. I didn't want it to be sort of, a pig in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's the Transition Relay. I'm not sponsored by Transition, but, this is exactly, the perfect bike for jumping Blue Steel.
Yeah.
I don't think I can speak sort of, highly enough about how it just keeps the lap coming, but, at the same time, it feels nice and nimble. You can get it tweaked out in the air.
And you're on your third motor?
Yeah, I'm on my third motor, and, I think I really, have to, not blame Transition for that. I think, it's kind of both a Fauza issue and the fact that, I'm riding in super muddy, wet conditions and being abusive. But, I think one of the nice things is, they've at least been no hassle warranting, replacing things. They gave me a demo when, they're waiting on the motor to show it up. So, really, very happy with how transition's been, at least, dealing with the service.
Cool.
Fingers crossed that, someday they'll give me a discount on maintenance or something.
For some shout outs.
Yeah.
What's up with the 8-inch tall BMX Rise handlebars?
Oh, yeah. So this is really, sort of my theory about bike sizing. I'm right on the bobble at 5'11" between medium and large. And actually, I like my wife's medium too. But so the thing that I like to do with my dirt jumpers, I got a large PBJ, but throw high-rise bars onto it. And so I feel like kind of the same amount of pop ability for being able to boost the bike. I could be riding a medium with shorter bars, which is what my wife has. So moving to that large gives me more stability. But like first time I got on this stock, I was like nose diving over everything. And it was just because my body position was too far forward with it being a larger frame. I think I would have preferred to have had just a larger spacer stack, but they cut the steer tube at the factory for you.
It's way cooler to have taller bars than a taller stack.
Yeah.
But a taller stack is technically better because it's stiffer and stronger and all that. But
Yeah, but so we're riding, the 80 mil DD bars. That's the only thing not stock about this bike right now.
the rest of it is bone stock.
Oh, that's actually not true. I kind of have a Franken bike. The first time I took this up here, I, on the right line, cranked way too fast into the last jump, the trick side, over jumped it and broke the derailleur that came on this. But so that was the non-transmission. And like I was already dropping chains and having problems with it. So I have a sort of a very rare, it's an aluminum P&W, but with a transmission derailleur on the back, which is not how it comes stock. So.
Gotcha. Can I ask you about your health?
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's nice to be able to share about. It's it's a big anniversary this year. March 14th was the 10-year anniversary of me almost dying in a hospital.
Wow.
So that's, 10 bonus years is, I like to think about it. It's been, off and on. But so I suffer from a disease called Addison's disease, also known as autoimmune adrenal failure. But so the fight or flight hormone, my body doesn't make. And so basically I have to predict in the day, like how stressed I'm going to be and guess appropriately. And it's really sort of a finicky thing to dose, because if I dose too low, which I kind of like to err on the side of, I'll wake up, like it's hard for me to wake up in the morning. I'll be like retching. I've probably spent 5 years of my life, 3 before and maybe 2 or 3 after being diagnosed. I just wake up and I'd vomit every single day in the morning. And that was just sort of my go-to, sort of, nauseated all day. I'm sort of, got better at dosing since then. But if I dose too high, I lose bone density, which as a freestyle bicyclist is just a huge thing.
It's a big risk, yeah.
But that's also, one of the reasons that I'm obsessed with as many laps as Blue Steel as I can get now, is because I don't know if my body's going to be able to keep it up, well into the years. The oldest person I know that's jumped Blue Steel is 58.
Awesome.
I've got my sights on that. That means I need to be jumping it for another 22 years. We'll see. But that's, I think the big goal. And, I think that's really, I think led to this obsession with bicycling. It's kind of, knowing, the suffering that, I did almost die, and, my life is just statistically going to be shorter than most people's. And, this is kind of Tom Waits. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but, something about, the way I would twist his quote, to be mine is, if you're going to have a short life, it's better to have a short life doing the things you love than to have a short life not doing the things you love. And so, really, that's, led to this exploitation passion of, I don't know how much I do this. So every day I get up here is just a blessing, that I'm able to be alive, that I'm able to go jump my bike, that I'm able to live in such an amazing community. I love just talking to the people that come by. And so, I think the, the other thing in the health is nice thing about freestyle bicycling is, unlike skiing, I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. to get good laps on blue steel. Yesterday, we had a party. I ended up staying up late. I ended up sleeping for a while. I didn't, leave my house till 1 p.m. and I still got up, for a quick lap on blue steel. So it's just perfect for that, small bursts of fun. I can't really do, day in, day out bike packing type thing.
Sure. So I know you're a big pilot. How does it compare to fly on our transition repeater off of these jumps versus fly from the airport in an airplane?
Yeah, so I'm obsessed with BMX trails. I'm obsessed, this to me is BMX trails too. It's about the sequence and flow of like one hit moving and chaining things together. There's speed management with altitude management. And to me, airplane flying is just trails you build for yourself in the sky. My big goal that I'm working towards is to get at least last place in a competitive aerobatic contest.
Wow.
But so one of the things that really speaks to me about that is competitive aerobatics. They have sequences where you have multiple maneuvers where you need to chain things together, keep the momentum, keep the flow up. And so, especially, diving down to do a loop in the airplane. I've done a few backflips. I don't backflip on blue steel. It's the thing that reminds me the most of doing a backflip on a bicycle, just yanking back on that stick going for a loop. And so I think some people are scared of it. I feel like it's safer than mountain biking. That's part of why I got into the aerobatic flying. It's because I know at some point I'm not going to be able to, do this safely for the rest of my life. But, it's very binary safety with the airplane. You're either not hurting yourself at all or you're putting yourself at the risk of killing yourself.
Yeah. Binary safety. I've never heard that term, but I'm going to have to borrow that. That's true. So it almost seems like airplanes, it's similar with the linking together of flow and altitude management, speed management.
Yeah.
Similar to these. And then also similar to these, you're either doing them great or you're doing them absolutely not great. And it's almost a binary danger scenario, but not as extreme as the airplane.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is there's a spectrum of doing a maneuver not great and you still didn't hurt yourself or put yourself in danger. Like, there's been plenty of times where I've been, unhappy with what I did over the deer hip. You case it, you land a bit weird, you pull your brakes, but you didn't crash. You get back up to the top, you do it again. It's the same sort of thing with the airplanes. I do all my maneuvers above like 5,000 feet. And so like there was a time, a couple weeks ago where I was trying to do some inverted flight and I messed it up and ended up in a sort of an inverted dive, lost 1,000 feet, rolled it back over. But, you had that altitude to lose. And, and so, I think, like airplanes, like with bicycling, the number one thing you can do for safety is learn how to, bail, learn how to, stop, learn how to do the thing that keeps you on your bike, without crashing.
Keep it on the thing without crashing. I mean, I try to do that in corners and low side corners rather than wash out over the top. But.
Oh, yeah, I hear you with that. I'm high side. That's one of the biggest thing that scares me.
Especially on a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
That's not good. We're at 37 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So we should probably
for forever, yeah.
we should probably wrap this up. I do want to say, if any of you are enjoying this video, which I hope you are, A, you should subscribe to my channel, and B, we're going to link to your Dr. Beardsley YouTube channel.
Yeah, Instagram, YouTube, Dr. Beardsley.
I'll
really
run a YouTube card up in the top right corner, and then I'll also put a link to his stuff in the description down below. And you said you were working on a video of your own GoPro footage as well.
Yeah, I think I've actually, I've been talking with Logan about, getting his help editing it. Just, because editing takes a lot of time.
You're telling me.
But, the big goal is was, to get some footage up of, blue steel throughout the seasons. This is my 18th month in a row of riding at least one lap, per month. And, just blue steel throughout the seasons. I was telling my wife, I think I decided on the title of the video already. It's going to be a Galbraith's Air Mileage Program, a year on blue steel.
Perfect. Anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, I had a few notes. I think it was we covered almost all of them. Great to talk for, a half hour. I think the other thing is, going over the crashes. This is not, without a, blood, sweat, and tears coming through this. We'll get some of the footage up, but, I think, that's, I think the big thing is talking about, the confluence of, why did I do this project? And, it was a few big things combined. It was, I had a big crash that I'm still doing some PT on the deer hip, June 2023. And I was really in my head. I was scared of that. The other thing is cedar dust was my go-to. That's what I bought the e-bike for originally.
Oh, cedar dust. Okay.
But then they rebuilt it to be a bigger, scarier, more difficult line.
Than blue steel.
So I just thought, well, blue steel is now the safe, easy pro line on Galbraith. And I think the other thing was there's a friend I was riding with that we sort of stopped riding, and I really asked myself the question, if I'm going to be riding by myself, what do I want to do? And the answer is blue steel. I'm a bit scared sometimes. One of the big things that sort of unlocked this blue steel project was making the call that I was just going to take laps up here by myself.
Yeah.
Nobody around, middle of sunset. I'm praying, that, I'm able to keep it safe, have my cell phone on me.
Yeah.
But, I think, just that confluence of, this wasn't so much even planned as, just every day I wake up and I decide, what do I want to do? I want to go jump blue steel. And so, I think that's really, I think a great place to leave it of, at some point it's just, the day-to-day passion of, when it comes time to ask myself, what do I want to do with life? And, it's almost always get up on these jumps. It's in part because they're not that big and they're not that dangerous. So forgiving, but just, lots of airtime. I think the other, final thing is, the big passion that I have, it's not technical riding and, it's pretty simple. In the BMX world, I said I just wanted to go fast. I wanted to jump high. I like pulling G-forces, and I like, as much airtime as I can get. So, 20 miles of, nothing but flying through the air already, I'm just going to keep them coming.
Sweet.
And I think, wrap this up, thank you a whole lot for this interview.
Oh, totally.
I really appreciate this. I think the other thing is, I'm just sort of keeping a lifestyle journal. My YouTube's not really about becoming famous or, being, known or anything. It's really about how, I've discovered this passion of mountain biking. And, I want to share sort of my experience, both the ups and downs, including the crashes, including, what a daily session is like. Not just do the highlight of, oh, here's a banger lap, I'm a good rider. So I think, trying to be honest, show the ups and downs of mountain biking, be, truthful about that sort of thing. That's really important to me. So
Cool. Well, I hope you can get your seasons of air mileage, Galbraith's air mileage program.
Yeah, 18 months in a row, so I'm going to keep them coming.
When do you not ride blue steel?
Oh, if I would be leaving tire marks in front of the deer hip, it is too slow.
Okay.
That's about it, though. And so that's kind of the rule of thumb. If there's a big muck puddle in front of the deer hip, it's not rideable. But, I'll ride right line even. And so it's really pretty experimental. It's basically if I'm not able to make it over the line, I don't ride it.
Wow.
But like I said, I've made some mistakes airing, learning what that is, But that's got a huge case pad. I've cut the hip. I've double tire cased it. So I think I've got a pretty good sense of what the speed coming out of the shark fin feels like to hit it. And so one of the biggest things I'm proud of is I really wanted the clip of riding it in the snow. I got that clip this year. And so, this is a trail that runs year round.
Cool. I think we should probably do some more riding. So,
sounds good
Brent,
to me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Oh, I really appreciate this. This is going to go, this is something I hope, plays at my funeral, 40 years from now. I just love sharing, what this means to me with the world. So, I really appreciate this opportunity.
And future thanks to Riley for editing.
Yeah.
And thanks now for filming.
Thank you so much for sitting there and listening to me ramble, Riley.
Can you hear anything over there, Riley? I can hear you. You can hear us. Okay. Cool. I've done interviews where I don't have this headset on and I've got my own microphone and I struggle to hear people, but that was in like crowded areas. So yeah.
Sounds good.
We should eat a sandwich and go ride. Let's do it.
I got 9 laps down. I wanted 16 today. So
I'm going to hit the stop and save buttons real quick.
sounds good.